So welcome, and we say welcome as well to Donovan. Firstly, I'll introduce myself. So my name's Jonathan Marsh. I'm the lecturer in journalism at the University of Hertfordshire. But currently, obviously, we're teaching from home, but also bits on campus as well. And my specialist area really, and my specialist area of teaching and research is in radio and radio journalism, but also specialising in other fields of journalism as well. So hopefully as well, I'll get to meet some of you over the next few months as well, for those of you who are joining us in September/October time in the new semester at the University of Hertfordshire. Just before as well I hand over to my colleague Dee, just want to also answer the question really for those of you who may not already know or is asking, what are the Media Matters talks? Well, they are an opportunity for you to meet a range of leading industry experts. In this case today, our guest Donovan, who we will introduce very shortly, as they share their stories and experiences of working in the media. Now, there are roughly 3 Media Matters talks that take place in each semester. That's across semesters A and B. So they run from approximately September through until roughly around April or May of next year. The details of each talk, each Media Matters talk, will be published online and via email. So make sure that you look out for those in due course. They will be announced later on. At the moment as well, and for the foreseeable future, these talks, like today's, is being delivered online due to the current social distancing measures. Now, these talks, again, like today's, will last for around an hour. So we'll chat to our guest, Donovan, and you'll have the opportunity to ask any questions as well at the end if you would like to. That's completely up to you. That's an option there that's available to you. You don't have to feel, if you don't want to ask a question, then that's absolutely fine. So I'm conscious as well of the time because we only have an hour, so I'll try and stop talking for now, and especially because I find that difficult because I work in the radio industry as well. So enough about me. Let's also hand over then to my colleague Dee, who's just going to give an introduction at the moment, then to Donovan.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Deirdre O'Neill and I teach film at Hertfordshire. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Donovan. I'm going to give you some biographical details. So Donovan teaches radio production in the award-winning prison radio station Radio 10, which is actually physically inside the prison. It's in HMP Wandsworth. He teaches Swahili at the Language Centre at SOAS, the School of Oriental and African Studies. He's stop me if I get any of this wrong, John. He's the co-author of Colloquial Swahili and has written extensively on the subject of film and television for Live magazine here in the UK. And he does book reviews in Swahili for Feminan magazine in Tanzania. He's taught African film studies and he is the co-editor of the Tanzanian sorry, is it the Tanzanian magazine? I'm not sure what it's called.
The magazine's called Tanzania Affairs, and it's produced by the Britain Tanzania Society. It's a charity.
Oh, okay, thank you. And just to add on top of all that, I can vouch for the fact that Donovan is a brilliant cook. And until you've had a Donovan McGrath curry, you haven't really lived. But yeah, okay, so that's a little bit of background detail about Donovan. So now what we're going to do is going to hand you back to Jonathan, who's going to ask Donovan some questions about the work that he does. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So all round then to Donovan's for some nice cooking. Brilliant.
Only six, yeah.
Yes, of course. Yes, so then as Deirdre was just mentioning there, then Radio 10, based at HM Prison Wandsworth in London. It's a 24-hour community radio station then that uses production skills to aid rehabilitation among the prison community. So we say a very warm welcome then to Donovan McGrath, who's the radio tutor then at Radio 10. So welcome, Donovan. And firstly then, how's lockdown been for you, but also as well for the radio station in terms of supporting the prison community and also how it's been operating during these challenging times?
Yeah, it's been very difficult, very challenging. The prison under what they call the Gold Command had stopped all people from outside that are not directly employed by the prison from entering the prison. So that's happened since March. And we've only just started, I think about 2 weeks ago, that we can go in on a restricted basis. into the prison. And that restricted basis means that I can go to an office and work in an office, but I actually cannot go to the actual radio station at this time. The station's continuing. There are not, as far as I know, any participants in the radio station at the moment, but how it's being run at the present moment is by the station manager. Station manager's programming everything, and help with the head of communications. So between the station manager and the head of communications, the radio station is still running, and information is still going out, and etc. in that sense. But we're working with radio students, but remotely. And how that's been done is we're creating what we call in-cell learning packs. So giving information about radio and asking them to fill out things, to see what knowledge they've gained from what the information that they've read, and so forth. So we're still sort of recruiting students in that sense. Information is going out to find out if what courses students want to go on to. And some have opted to join radio, so they're getting those information packs, and we're helping them through that learning process in that remote point. Unfortunately, at this stage, the actual course or the accreditation for the course cannot take place. It's purely, they cannot have the actual accreditation program, because of that's got to be practical, you see, and they can't even enter the radio station. So at the moment, but hopefully that will change towards the end of the year or very early next year. Yeah.
So that's on pause then at the moment due to the current situation of the pandemic.
Yes, that's correct. The actual learning program of the course is on pause, but the Radio 10 as a station is actually still running. Although restrictedly, it's running, giving information out that's coming from the governor, from the people that are running the prison, information like that, of course, and entertainment programs and things are still running out, because we've got a vast sort of archive of material that can be, played over again. So.
So your current schedule then is on hold. It's been affected then by the pandemic, because I'm just looking here then at the schedule that you've sent me. I mean, there's an array of different programs on there as well, isn't there? There's a daytime music mix program. You've got the likes of Porridge as well, a gospel hour, just to name just a few. Are you still offering something similar to that, or is
right?
that...
Okay. Well, the program that I sent you, that you're reading from, that's actually the National Prison Radio programming that goes out.
Okay, and you take some of those programs as well.
Pretty similar. It's quite similar in that sense. So it's similar in the sense that it's about 75% music based and 25% speech based. That's the idea of it.
Okay. And so lockdown then has been difficult for many of us as well. But what's then the story behind Radio 10? I mean, take us back, if we can rewind the clock back then. When did it start? How did it start? Why did it start?
Right, okay, yeah. Well, Radio 10, it started in around 2002. And it officially opened in 2004. It was officially opened by Sherry Booth at that time, or Sherry Blair at that time. She did the official opening of that. And it's been running ever since, without a break. The idea of how it sort of started, to the idea of prison radio, actually sounded, let's give you a bit of background from that. Prison radio itself started in the United States around the 1950s. So that's the idea of prison radio. The first prison radio started in the UK, started in Feltham Young Offenders Institution. And that started in 1992. So that's quite a way back. And then the other stations started coming up. Radio 1 was one of the earlier ones. There's also a radio station in Brixton, which is called Electric Radio. And that's where the National Prison Radio service are based. The Prison Radio Association, they're based there, and they put out their own sort of programming, which is what you've got, that scheduling that you've got. And they broadcast to around, at the peak, it was around 90 prisons. But roughly now it's around 82 prisons that they broadcast to. Yeah, and we, at Radio 10, we run that station as well. We run the National Prison Radio Service station alongside our own local station. And they're all, both of them are broadcast through their in-cell television. Mm-hmm. So they have a station on their in-cell television, station 10, Prison Radio, station 9, Radio 10, and then the other TV stations that they have. So that's how it's broadcast. Originally, Radio 10 itself, originally they were broadcast on AM, on the AM platform, so people could hear it from outside. Radio 10's AM band was 999 AM, so that's what I had that, you know.
Someone's got a sense of humour.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So the idea now, we no longer can broadcast on the, you know, on the airwaves like that. You know, AM, FM, we can't do that. And that's through these sort of government restrictions from that, where everything has to be quite restricted, you know, in that sense. As you know, media, I don't know if you know about the prison regime and situation, but it's very, very strict on media, extremely. Photographing, filming, you know about filming in prisons, filming, recording, all this is actually not allowed. It's restricted. You can't do that in the prison unless you've got specific exceptional permission to do that. So to set up radio stations, and in some prisons they've had a TV project. In fact, ours is going to extend to a TV project as well. You know, it's remarkable to be able to do that in a prison. But we've been able to convince the Ministry of Justice that this sort of platform and this media outlets is actually very beneficial to the actual prison system itself, to help it run in a safe and efficient way. And we do that in various ways through the programming that we put out. And we allow, of course, it's a prison radio station. So the actual prison officers and the governors, they can use that as a form of media, a form of communication to the prisoners themselves. So we invite them in. So we have programs like Governor's Question Time. So the governor can come in and answer questions that have been put forward by the prisoners themselves, and it could be answered directly by the governor, you know, as well. And any other useful information, you know, if there's an extended lockdown in the prison, the governor can come in and explain what's happening, so that it settles everyone. And you know, it's very, very good, very, very good in that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's used then as a useful communication tool then to prisoners.
Yes.
So prisoners as well then can access and listen to the radio services from their cells, as you mentioned. Yes. Is it also kind of, I say broadcast in a loose term there, across the prison itself? Is it available to hear, you know, in communal areas as well?
Unfortunately not. Well, there is in Wandsworth. There is one. There's one area that we have set up that's not broadcast as live, let's say, because we program it for them and give them pre-recorded material, and that is in the workshops, in the what we call the tailoring workshops. You know, so they've got something to listen to, which is relevant to their situation. So that's good. We do that for them. But outside of that, the prison officers, people working in the offices, people working in education, unfortunately cannot hear it at all. It's only for the prisoners themselves. Mm-hmm. People outside in the public arena can get to hear some chosen programs that come out of the prison. And we do that through the Public Protections Office. they check everything, and then we can release it. And that's where we can release recordings and things for the awards that we go up for. You know, people need to hear that in the public, you know. So we get permission to be able to do that. And there is some programs that you can find online through the Prison Radio Association. They've got an online, and they have selected programs that you can actually go and listen to at any time, you know.
Okay, that's good to know. And if we can then as well, roll the clock back again and ask, you know, how did you get involved with Radio 10? And tell us a bit about your radio career as well.
Right, okay. First and foremost, my background is not actually in radio, you know. My background is more in film and visual cultures. That's my specialized area. And of course, print media. I'm involved in that as well. So what happened was, it's around 2007. It was around 2007 that the education provider at the time, which was Kensington and Chelsea College, and who was my employer, had agreed to take over the education side of the prison radio station. Before, it was run through Richmond College, and Richmond College had pulled out, and the prison said, well, we've got this radio station and we always like to have some sort of education program running with the radio station. Would you be interested, Kensington and Chelsea College? And they said, yes, we would be. And so they looked across and to see qualifications and so forth of who could go in there in the radio station. And really, I was the closest one that they had that had a media background. And so I was put into the radio station in 2008, that was. And I've been there ever since. So I work with a team, the original team. The person that was there just slightly before me is a radio person, my colleague Simon. His background is hospital radio, and is a bit of a technological wizard, so he likes the tech. But that's his radio background. And the other person that we work together with is a guy called Kevin, who was the project manager of Radio 10. Currently, he's the head of communications in the prison. And Kevin's background is in commercial radio as a producer. So with the three of us, we teamed up, got together. Kevin had come in at around 2009, and we revamped the prison radio station. It really wasn't running as it should be, as a sort of station. You know, we didn't have soundproofing on the walls, you know, carpet, you know, it really needed a real revamp. And Kevin was really the spearheading that sort of side of things, because he had a bit of clout as he was in a sort of managerial role. He could have some clout to get that together through his organization that he was working for at that time. That was called Media for Development. And with that, we revamped it and we made it into a proper radio station, you know, and got our first cohort in, and got the learning program together. That was really important. Let's get a good course. And I think it was through the Prison Radio Association, a woman called Rachel, she said to me, there's a course that you might be interested, you know, to run, because we were running a BTEC course before, and that was too long and too long-winded, and we weren't getting enough accreditations through. And she said it was called an NCFE course, and it's kind of industry recognized course, you know. So we got onto that, and it was very good. We liked the idea of it. There was a lot of practical elements to it, as much as the theory side. There was a lot of practical side to it as well. So yeah, I got enrolled us onto that, and we've been running that course right through. And how we do that is through portfolio-based. It's a portfolio-based program, in the sense that because of the prison regime, we don't have cohorts. We don't have like 12 people coming in, learning all together, and then graduating from that. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. In the prison, we have what we call a roll-on, roll-off basis. That means someone can start at any time and someone can leave at any time. So you've got people coming in at any time. So we're all at different places. And that was such a dilemma for us. How are we going to deal with this, you know? And, you know, because we can't have so much teaching around the table, you know, because people are different. They don't want one would come in and wouldn't know what you're talking about for the people that have already been there. So what we decided to do was to create what we called portfolios, create the actual portfolios themselves that they complete. So we would have that all ready for them, which they do digitally now, but we used to do it on paper base as well. So it's all printed out for them with information and so forth, where to get the information, guiding with a lot of guidance and so forth. And of course, the last point of call is the radio tutor, which they could speak to us and so forth. And every time, we of course take every opportunity to get everybody around the table, which we do every morning to start with, but to see if we can, you know, give demonstrations and things like that. You know, say like using the software, which we use, Adobe Audition software. And so we would give a presentation maybe about Adobe Audition, you know, using PowerPoint and so forth, with a screen with that. We can do things like that. That still works, but it was difficult at first trying to do people on this roll-on, roll-off basis. But now, over the years, it's fine. You know, it works quite well. And it also prepares the students for independent learning. They start to learn that, you know, they've got to take control of their own learning, you know, which many of them have never done, never done that before. Many of them have never gone right through, you know, schooling, you know, right through the whole schooling system. So it's quite challenging in that sense, but it's also quite rewarding when you see the confidence build up when people realize, oh, I can do this, you know, and so forth. So yeah, it's good.
So it sounds like then you've got that down to a fine art then with the system and the processes there as well.
Yes, I mean, we've even, through what we call sharing good practice, we've even extended that to other prisons. You know, they come to us and say, how do we do this? How do we do that? We give them examples of our portfolios, you know, and give them ideas of what we do. You know. Because
it's quite a unique system there, as you've just explained, and
yes,
can pose a bit of a challenge then as well. But it sounds like you've navigated your way around that as well.
Yes, we have.
And so you teach a range of skills then to the students, radio production techniques, communication skills, social skills as well. And so what do the students get out of being part of Radio 10? I mean, you mentioned there then, you know, you take them through the course, but what kind of key skills do they build up as well then in their portfolio? What do they get out of being part of Radio 10?
Okay, maybe it would be good to actually, I've got some comments here, readings from people of what they've got out of Radio 10. So I'll actually read this.
Some of those, yeah.
Okay, so former participants of Radio 10 have also gone on to new things that are not solely media based. Okay, so a guy called Sean now works in IT and computers, and he has a basic level of reading and writing when he first joined us. There's a guy called Dean. Dean knows Dean. Is a recognized playwright and helped set up the organization called Art Saves Lives. He came through the radio. There's a guy called Warren. He qualified with a post-production degree from Ravensbourne College and has set up his own production company. He cites Radio 10 as his spark. There's a guy called Jason. He gained a BA's honours degree in broadcast journalism from the University of Goldsmiths College. There's Darren. He used the skills that he learned to develop a community radio project. Another guy called Simon, who gave up on his dream originally to be a filmmaker, and immediately following his imprisonment. But he rekindled this ambition after joining Radio 10 and has set up his own media company called Keep It Moving Productions, producing short films, documentaries, and pop promos. I went to see a stage production some years back, and it was very, very interesting, very enjoyable. And the person behind it that helped to produce it was Simon. And so we met up again after all those years, and he had helped to produce this stage production, which is great. So, you know, yeah. So, yeah, of course, you know, the students know straight away, there's so few jobs to get into radio. You know, it's not about, you know, getting into radio, but it's about the transferable skills, the other skills that you learn that can do that you can use to you know, enhance your life in that way. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and so it sounds like then they've used Radio 10 to you know, move their career and as a kind of a launch pad.
yes.
Into other avenues as well. That kind of then answers my next question then, really, which is why is radio so important, and how has Radio 10 changed lives? But I think we've kind of covered most of that. But I mean, you might want to also touch upon, though, why is radio so important? You know, the social element as well, particularly as well as we've all just been through lockdown for the last few months. People have felt isolated, lonely from time to time. I'm sure, like yourselves and those of you who have joined us this afternoon as well, I mean, personally, I find that radio is a great comfort. You know, it's a bit of a companionship there. It's a source of entertainment as well. It can inform the audience through news and information. But what else does radio and Radio 10 offer as well?
Right. Radio 10, as you know, is a prison-based radio project. And one of the things that happens to you when you become incarcerated in prison is you are disempowered. Your power is taken away in many ways. And so through radio, people that have been imprisoned can re-empower themselves. And it's very, very powerful. You know, it's a real force. They can re-empower themselves in a really positive way. So, for instance, you get a student that will come in, and I've seen many times, the first thing is, one of the first things that we get them to do is what we call a 1 minute me. That's their first project when they come in, is to write a script to about 1 minute. That's a 1 minute time frame, because that way they're going to learn that radio is all about timing. Okay, so they do this 1 minute me, and many of them say, oh, I'm not going to record that, or I'm not going to, I'm really shy, and so forth. And we say, okay, don't worry, it's not going to be broadcast on the radio. It's going to be for you personally, but this is the first steps for it. And they go through those first steps because they're going to record that, and then they're going to learn about the editing skills. They're going to edit it and enhance that audio themselves. And you can see them gradually stepping through, and gaining confidence slowly with that. And then comes to a point where they may have the first interview that they may have to do on the radio. We get them, of course, to create radio spots as well, adverts and radio spots. So they do that. But then they may have to interview somebody, and you can see that they're a bit nervous about it. But once they've had that chance and they get through, they break that barrier, the confidence that comes up is incredible. So much so that, some people actually find that that's actually what they're good at. This is what I could do. They would never have known that. One of our particular participants that we had, Martin, Dee knows Martin, he's won many awards for us, for the radio station. One of his ones that he's won an award was interviewing Hugh Jackman. Doing time with Hugh Jackman. That was the program, what it was called. And I remember Hugh Jackman actually saying that it was one of the best interviews that he'd ever had anywhere. Forget about being in prison. It was one of the best interviews he'd ever had. And because Martin was able to get him to speak about something very sensitive, and that was about his father. And he's never spoken about his father in the public ever before, let alone in the prison radio station. Because he had come into the prison to do some research for a film that he was doing. That was for Les Miserables, and at that time. So he came in to do some research about being in prison. And so while he was there, we said, can you do us a favor? While we're helping you, can you help us? Can we interview you in our radio station? He was a bit reluctant at first, but he said, okay, I'll do it. One of the things is, I don't want to speak about anything very personal. And Martin was able to get him to speak about his father. And Hugh Jackman shed a tear in that time. That piece of audio has won us numerous awards from that piece of audio. So Martin himself had also, BBC had come in to actually interview Martin. They came in to do some other recording, and they got to know about Martin. Yeah, and they actually... Are we all right there?
Sorry, we've got some
crossover. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Donovan. Yeah,
that's okay. Yeah,
sorry,
and the BBC actually came in and interviewed Martin in his cell and offered him a position when he would come out.
Wow.
You know, so that's what someone can do. And I've seen many other instances where people have become so confident and you know, about themselves. You know, once you've got that confidence, if you've been told that you are you're a criminal and you're not going to amount to anything, you know, and so forth, and then you can turn that around through something like radio, working in a team, you know, team participation, learning a new skill, learning something about yourself. It's terrific. It's really good. And so it's really got a very, because that's at the heart of what we do. Rehabilitation is at the very heart of what we do. And we do that in two ways in Radio 10, okay? We do that through the sort of programs that we make, the programming that we make and put out. But we also do that by the participation of the community. Like any community radio station, we invite the community to come in and help us run the station itself. They take active part in it. So they come in at first as students learning, okay? And then they become, once they've gone through the level 1 of the NCFE course, and then they go to the level 2, they can then progress onto what we call the broadcast unit. That's working full time, producing content for the radio station, you know? And with that, you know, they can really hone their skills in radio. And they also become sort of peer tutors themselves for new people coming in, and so forth. So it's a very, very good program in that way. And, you know, there's lots of people, there are a few people that have come through and they've got a lot of experience outside. They've run their own business outside. They've, you know, what can we offer them? You know, we can at least offer them more than just say literacy and numeracy, basic maths, basic, you know, these people have got degrees. You know, some people have got PhDs that have come to prison, unfortunately, but that's the case. And what can they, so Radio 10 can provide something for people of like that too. Yeah, so it's good.
So it's a range of skills then as well, and powerful to hear some of those stories there that you've shared with us as well, and that's the level of self-empowerment as well. So let's talk about then the awards that your radio station has achieved over the years. You touched upon them and hinted at them at the start of your talk. You've met a few famous people along the way, some of them royals. Princess Anne, I think, one of those being. So do you want to spill the beans a bit on that one? And you know, I'll ask you, you know, who else have you met along the way as well?
Okay, right. Okay, so yeah, we've met quite a few people that are quite famous in that way. I mean, you know, Stephen Fry came in, one of our earlier interviews. Martin did that as well, interviewed Stephen Fry. And we've talking about mental health in prison as well. So we've won like a Mind Media Award, you know, several times. We won the Mind Media Award with that. We've won the latest, one of the latest ones I think we've won. That was in 2019. That was the Community Radio Awards. Okay, and that was in the category of Digital and Restricted License Station of the Year, and we won a gold for that. Okay, and that was in 2019. The Audio Production Awards, okay? We were in the grassroots category in that, and we won a silver in that, okay? We've also won the Radio Academy Awards, okay? And as you know, the Radio Academy is like the Oscars of the radio, okay? We first got nominated for that. We were so excited when it was called the Sony Radio Academy Awards at that time, and we got a nomination for that in 2011, and we were so happy for that. But 3 years later, we didn't win, but 3 years later, we actually did win, and it was kind of come under the Nations and Regions area of that. And we won that. And, we're being put up against the BBC, commercial radio stations, and, a little small prison radio project has come through and won awards from that. The IVCA Clarion Awards, IVCA EVCOM awards, we've won, numerous awards on that. So yes, there's quite a lot. I mean, I think it was the Prison Radio Association that upset the apple cart, so to speak, because it was back in 2009, I think it's 2009, maybe 2010, where they won the Sony Gold, as the best radio station. And now that the industry was up in arms, like, hang on, what? Beating the BBC, Capital Radio, you name it, all the sort of top stations, Heart, whatever. A prison radio, they hadn't heard of prison radio. And they thought, this has got to be a fix. Prison, what is prison radio? Now we've come along, quite a long way, and we've won many awards, again, successively, that there is now recognized genre of community radio called prison radio. And it is in its own sort of standing, and it's respected. It's now respected. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So not quite the new kid on the block though, but like you say though, it came as a bit of a surprise then to the more established organisations like the BBC and others then out there for you to win those very prestigious awards. And congratulations, of course, as well on winning those. Do you want to also as well just tell us a little bit about your trip to the Palace?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, that was actually it was timely. That was back in 2000, and we were nominated in 2012, and we actually received the award in 2013, May 2013. And it was something that I really appreciated and was happy about with the three of us, because not because it was in the Palace and and so forth. It was about being recognised for what you do. But in the prison, it's very challenging, a very challenging area. It's very difficult to get to do anything in the prison. You have to, there's so much bureaucracy that you have to go through, lots of hoops you have to jump through, lots of things, and they still don't often work out. But we kept pushing on and believing in what we do, and regardless, and kept going. So it was really good when we got recognised. Now, it's a charity called the Butler's Trust. It's the Butler's Trust Award, and it's called the Butler's Trust Award, and it's the highest award that you can get in the prison sector. So many people, really would love this sort of award. Many of the governors would say, "Oh, I'd love a Butler's Trust Award." So for us as a prison radio project, Kevin, Simon, and myself, to get the award, to be nominated, and then actually get the award out of 200. There were 200 applications in it, and it got reduced down to the last 25, and then just a handful actually get the actual award itself. You can go down as a nominee, and then you can go down as actually getting the award itself. And we actually got the award. We explained what we did at Radio 10. They looked into it, and we were successful. So that was real achievement, and the governor was very, very, proud and pleased, for us coming from Wandsworth Prison to have that award, which of course it gets advertised around and so forth. But yeah, that was good. That was good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so there's some of the highlights then, and all your hard work and your team's hard work as well as paid off. It sounds like then you need a bigger trophy cabinet now then to put these awards in and certificates.
The walls covered. The walls covered with lots of them. I mean, one of the ones I should mention as well, and it's really important, and that's the Kersler's Awards. All right, the Kersler's Awards, they deal with prison, the awards for prisoners in regards to all forms of art, through arts and music and so forth. And they've now got a radio category as well. So we've won lots of Kersler Awards as well in that sense. So that should be mentioned. It shouldn't always be the high, considered outside awards. That's really important, especially for the prison. Yeah, winning curseless. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's nice then to hear about all the highlights and the achievements of what you and your team and the radio station has.
Yeah, and I'd also like to say that what the guys have done, because what's important and what we are very proud of at Radio 10 is that the programs that are made by the prisoners themselves. We just guide them. We don't make those programs for them. They make it themselves. They script it, they edit it, they produce it, and they present it themselves. You know, and so to win awards, in the industry is absolutely amazing, and it shows that people, have those skills. They're great skills there. So it stops people. Definitely from my experience of working in the prison for 19 years. A person is not the sum total of the offence that they may have committed. They are much more than that. And this is what we aim to bring out, that side of them, to help that they do not reoffend again. And it's very successful that way. I mean, if you've won those kind of awards and you've been behind it, it's a program that you've produced, what an achievement. What an achievement. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And to make it clear as well, these are people who don't have any radio experience or background, do they? They have literally never done radio before, and now they are winning awards.
Yes.
That's very impressive. I mean, what an achievement. Just to make that clear as well, for those as well who are listening in this afternoon as well then. And so there's some of the wonderful highlights then there that you've touched upon. But also what have been then more so the challenges then so far along that journey of Radio 10 and your journey with the radio station as well? Let's hear some of those challenges as well. Well,
there's always challenges in the sense of one of the biggest challenge, I should tell you, is to actually keep the radio station going. That is the biggest challenge. There were at some stage around 32 prison radio projects, similar to Radio 10, not quite the same, but similar, on a smaller scale, some of them. And virtually all of those have gone. All of them have gone, through funding, the lack of, government says we can't, have that money. We don't have that money anymore. We can't spend on that. Very few, are remaining. And we've been fortunate that we've been able to remain. And each governor successive governors that's come through at Wandsworth, we've been able to show them, we've been successful at showing them how useful the station is for the prison itself, and part of the actual program to reduce reoffending. And they've all seen it, with their own eyes, and they back it. So we've been really fortunate. But unfortunately, some other prisons have not been fortunate like that. And many of them have closed down. And it's very sad because the Prison Radio Association, the National Prison Radio Association, they started hosting an annual conference that they had. The first one, I think, started in 2009, 2010. And for the last 3 years, they've not had one. And that's mainly because there may not be enough people to host it. It's just become quite difficult, running prison radio projects. The Electric Radio Brixton, where they are, the Prison Radio Association itself is based, and where they produce their programs and so forth, they used to run a radio production course, and they no longer have that course, the NCFE radio production course. They no longer have a teacher and a tutor running the course there. But we at Radio 10 have managed to keep that going. We've it's been difficult, but we've managed to keep it going, and we've been able to, through winning awards, we've been able to show what, how useful the radio station actually is, in the prison. I mean, our listening figures, anybody would love it on the outside, the sort of listening figures, that we get. I mean, 94% of prisoners at one time or another have listened to Radio 10. at one time or another. You know, of course, appointment, you know, to listen, you know, appointment to listen, you know, people do that. But some people just leave it on in the background, you know, quite a bit. So, you know, it's you know, really, really important. We do programs, information, and sometimes small short features in foreign languages too, you know, in Polish, Romanian, Bulgarian. We do it in those languages too. Yeah, yeah. So that's, so everybody can feel part of it. I think we're really good at convincing or showing even the prisoners themselves that the radio station is there. It's theirs. It's there for them. It's theirs, because we accept their ideas. They have so much input as to, this is the program I want to make, this is the idea I have, and so forth. And we help them to see that through, and they love it, you know, and many of them go back onto the wings. Once they've been in the radio station, they go back onto the wings, and people say, yeah, I heard your program, whoa, that's good, whoa, you know, yeah. And, you know, they really feel proud, you know, they said, yeah, you know, yeah, it's really good in that sense.
Brilliant. What an experience as well for them.
Yes, yes, yes.
Especially if it's new to them, or it's the first time, it's a little bit scary,
yeah,
but they accomplish it, they achieve it.
Yes.
And they get an award as well, if, you know, in some cases, as you've explained. Yeah.
And, you know, and they're learning all the sort of things that they need to, you know, about media law, copyright, all these things. They say, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I've been downloading lots of stuff. I've been doing this and doing that, and I won't do that anymore. I won't do that anymore. You know, and they can see the legal way of going around things and doing things in a proper manner. So
and these as well are life skills, aren't they, as well? I mean, they don't just stay with the prisoners while they're spending time behind bars. They're also lifelong skills and experience as well that they build up through this wonderful project at Radio 10. Just because I know that we're conscious of time as well. It's nearly 10 to the hour, and it's obviously been, you know, wonderful chatting to you. But also as well, how can we? I know you mentioned earlier about the restrictions behind the Radio 10, but is there a way then that any of us could tune in and have a listen to Radio 10? Now I know you said about the restrictions, but is there any content out there that we could tune into?
The only content that's out there is what you'd get through the Prison Radio Association. That's the only content that's out there. There's no direct content that you'll be able to hear, you know, directly from Radio 10, unfortunately. If there's, you go online and through the National Prison Radio Association, there may be something directly there from Radio 10, you know, in that sense. But unless you're, you know, hosting an award event or something like that, or taking part in an award event, then you would be able to hear it from that point of view. But, you know, these restrictions came through. If you don't mind me, I'll just touch on why these restrictions came through before, because it wasn't like that before. I told you they were broadcast on the airwaves, but it was through the sort of tabloid press, unfortunately, in that sense. You know, it started off with there was a comedy workshop that they were holding in a prison. It was the tabloid newspapers picked that up and ran with it. And they didn't look behind it, but that in this comedy workshop, there was a course behind it. It was, you know, it's a teaching program. There was a whole things around it. They just heard comedy, and they attributed it to somebody, say, a terrorist in there. And so they were saying, you know, things like, you know, blow up people and make a joke of it. It was that kind of raw, really, you know, inaccurate sort of news that they were putting out, that people that are, you know, accused of serious crimes could go in and start having a comedy workshop and make fun and so forth. And that, you know, the Ministry of Justice, when that came out, shut everything down. They changed everything. Oh no, we can't have that, you know, because the public don't understand how it really works. You know, and so they'd see it from a different angle, and it was really, you know, closed down. So from that point, they drew up what we call the NOMS guidelines. NOMS stands for National Offender Management Service, and they drew up guidelines for prison radio, which we have to adhere to. Okay, so all our content is pre-recorded. It has to be pre-recorded and checked before it goes on air. you know. We'd play it on air as live. So, you know, the news on the hour will come on the hour and the timing, but it's all pre-recorded and checked and listened to beforehand. And the restriction on names, the use of names, only first names only, you know, so that somebody cannot be identified, okay? The use of, you know, going out, the recorded material cannot go out, you know, on CDs or be streamed anywhere, you know, without clearance from it. So all these restrictions came in because of that. But despite all those restrictions, we've still been able to keep it going. We've still been able to keep prison radio going and not shut down, to sort of say that cannot happen. And one of the ways we do that as well, through NOMS, they appoint every year and a half, every 2 years, they get a secondment. They get somebody from the BBC to oversee prison radio. They work directly for NOMS for about a year and a half, and they come around to the projects and that we meet them. And you know, the people that have worked in BBC producers, and they're out of the BBC for, you know, a year and a half overseeing prison radio. So they learn along the way of what it's like. They all want to come to Radio 10 because it's one of the longest prison radio projects. So they all want to come to Radio 10. And occasionally they take us into the BBC and we can see how things work in the BBC down in Regent Street there. We've been down there a few times, and that's really good. So yeah, that's how we go with that. Yeah.
That's good. That's good then that you're sharing across different radio stations as well and different services. The BBC, the likes of the BBC are coming in as well. Yeah. I'm aware of the time as well, but thank you very much though, Donovan. It's really nice to talk to you as well. And thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your stories on your journey with Radio 10. But let's open up then the rest of the conversation to you at home, wherever you may be this afternoon, and ask you if you have any questions that you would like to ask Donovan this afternoon. Remember as well, most of you have your microphones muted. So specifically, if you are going to ask a question, just remember, if you could unmute your microphone, please, before talking, that would be great. So I can't really say, well, we're going to try and do one at a time, but I don't know who's going to ask the first question. This is completely up to you. If you have a question, then that's fine. But if you don't want to ask a question, that's equally fine as well. So is there anyone who has a question for Donovan?
There is one in the chat, Jonathan.
In the chat, yeah. I'll think
yeah, you can put them in the chat as well if you want to, yeah.
She asked, why do you guys, so obviously Donovan, she's talking about the radio station. She said, why do you guys mainly broadcast in Eastern European languages when it comes to overseas? So you gave a list of languages, you said Polish and Bulgaria.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's because currently we have a high population of people from Eastern Europe, but we have broadcast before in Portuguese and Spanish, before as well. But many people from other sort of parts of Europe already speak English, so they're quite happy with English, in that sense. Mm-hmm.
Okay, are there any other questions? I'm just having a quick look down the chat, because while I've been talking, I've missed most of the chat that's been going on the chats.
Shay's asked one just now.
Yeah.
Shay has asked, what is an interesting challenge you went through as a prison radio? I mean, I think you've covered some of that, Donovan, but is there any other kind of interesting challenges you went through?
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Yeah.
I suppose an interesting challenge. Okay, right. This is an interesting challenge. This is where I can put one. All right, okay. One time, one of my students had come in, a new cohort of students, a few students, and a guy called Tommy was there, and he said to me on the computer. He looked at the computer, and I said, "Yeah, you're going to need to edit your audio. You're going to record something, and go on the computer." And he said to me, "Computer? You want me to use a computer?" He said, "The only thing I've ever done with a computer is to steal them and sell them on. Now you want me to use a computer? I've never used one." And, he got him. I did get him to use the computer. And he raised his literacy skills. And in fact, he became very, very good at using the computer. So good, in fact, because he'd been here with us for quite some time, that he was finding out sort of things that Adobe Audition could do that some of us radio tutors didn't know. And he was showing us, oh, did you know you could do this and you could do that? And that was a person that didn't even know how to switch a computer on when he first came. So that was a challenge. That came out really good. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions out there for anyone else?
Another one here, Don. Someone's asking about who made a financial contribution to the Prisoner Radio Association. So how is it funded? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This is interesting. Yeah. Of how it's funded. Yeah. Okay. The bulk of it, of course, is paid by the prison itself. That's who has it. It's up to the governor. The governor holds the funding for their particular prison. Prison itself, and that's why lots of projects have closed down, because it's up to the governor if they want that or not. When that funding cap went to the governors themselves, that in the last few years, that's when a lot of it changed. When the Ministry of Justice was funding it, in that sense, it was much more easier to maintain a prison project. It was much easier, but now it's to the individual governors themselves. If they could find that as a very expensive, form of communication, in that sense. Yeah. So the funding, before the Radio 10, in the very early days, it was funded through three people were doing it. It was a partnership between the prison that was doing the main funding, Media for Development, where the project manager, the radio station manager that ran a radio station, as a radio station, he came in, and the college that I worked for at that time was Kensington and Chelsea College. And it was a partnership between those three that ran the radio station in that sense. Yeah.
Okay, another question here, this one from Hannah. Would it be possible for prison radio to be independent one day without the influence of the organisation anymore? That's from Hannah.
No, that would never, happen. That couldn't happen, because the fact that it's prison radio, and the fact that if people that are have been incarcerated are working on it, then they would always have an influence on that. I mean, when they what we call the contributors release form. Right, everybody that comes in and produces content, they have to sign a contributors release form. Even the prisoners have to sign it for the programs that they make. Okay, and it does state that the content belongs to the Ministry of Justice. The content that you make belongs to the Ministry of Justice, and they can say whether it gets aired or if it doesn't get aired. In that sense. So yeah, the prison radio cannot be independent from the estate, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there's nothing stopping people, prisoners or ex-prisoners or people that have been released of launching their own projects, radio projects, and a couple of people have actually done that. Yeah, yeah.
Another one here, Fuller. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Fuller. But they say, I know the purpose of the radio station is to rehabilitate. But was there any way it helped significantly those in charge of it? So have people like yourself benefited from being part of Radio 10? I think that's what Fuller's asking.
Yeah, most definitely. I can only talk from my own personal experience. Most definitely. I think it's, out of any course, I've taught numerous courses over in the prison over the years. As I said, I've been almost 20 years now, Wandsworth. And I think that it's helped to shape me to understand, about human behavior, about humanity, of how we are. It enables me to see people in a much more rounded way, and, teaching radio production has helped me to do that. I've gained so much from that experience. Of course, I've learned the radio skills myself, which I pass on to others, but which, I appreciate. especially with my sort of, sometimes I get tasked to do translation for the Swahili translations and so forth, and they want me to produce some audio and things. So I can do that quite easily. I can enhance it and clean it up and then send it out quite polished sort of recordings. And that's through radio. I've got that through radio. It's a skill that I've learned from being in the radio. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can you see that one from Peter? I think he's messaged me privately. Donovan, prisons are highly regulated and controlled. Yes. So what Peter, one of our colleagues, is asking is, what is your most surprising experience?
Well, right. Most surprising experience. Now, well, yeah, I try to think what can be surprising. I think there's not much that can come out of the norm, really, in that sense. I think, I think more the surprising experiences more come from the people that have visited the radio station. Like we interviewed Terry Waite. I don't know if people know about Terry Waite. He was incarcerated for a bit. So I met Terry Waite, and it was interesting to hear him talk and hear what he said about the prison radio station. How he felt about being in the radio station and the experience that he had. Like for instance, what I mentioned before about Hugh Jackman, how he felt. I think the surprising experiences is how the guys have grown from that experience and how you see them. It's amazing. Of how they've grown to be luminous, really, in that sense.
I know Jonathan's going to wrap it up now, but I've just got one question, because you've been doing it for so long, and I mean I've heard you talk about it, but I just wonder, do you realise how radical it is what you're doing?
I know.
Our kind of revolutionary.
It is
incredible project.
Yeah.
Are you more aware of that? Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I'm very much aware of that, because one of the things that being incarcerated is to shut you down. You don't have a voice anymore. Because that you can't vote while you've been in prison. You can't vote. It's to shut you down. Those are the things, and radio. You shouldn't be able to broadcast something, but they do. So yes, it is radical, extremely radical. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Donovan, for your time today and sharing your stories and your experience as well to myself and everyone who's joined us this afternoon. Thank you as well to you who've joined us this afternoon as well, wherever that may be, from your home. And yes, thank you very much for that. And we will meet again soon. And keep your eyes peeled as well for the next Media Matters talk, with the details coming your way via email and on social media.
Brilliant. Thank you, Donovan.
Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Dave.
Thanks, Donovan.